People have this picture in their heads. They imagine the speed of light the way they imagine a speed limit sign on a desert highway. Some bureaucratic ceiling that nature posted up one afternoon, and that someday, with a big enough rocket or a clever enough physicist, we will figure out how to blow right past. I want to dismantle that picture completely, not gently, completely, because it is not even close to the truth, and the actual truth is so much darker and more mechanical and more absolute that once you see it, you cannot unsee it. The speed of light is not a limit on light. That is the first mistake. Light does not set the speed limit any more than a car sets the speed limit on a road. Light just happens to travel at that speed because it is massless, and a massless thing riding the vacuum has no choice but to hit the ceiling every single time. The ceiling was already there. The ceiling is structural. It is built into the geometry of spacetime itself, and it has nothing to do with engines or fuel or human engineering reaching its ceiling. It is a hard mathematical boundary on the rate at which causality itself is permitted to operate. Let me build you the right picture. Forget rockets for a moment. Imagine a perfectly flat desert, enormous, stretching in all directions without end. Every object in the universe, every particle, every atom in your body, every planet, every photon is a car driving across that desert, and here is the rule that governs all of them without exception. Every single car is always moving at precisely one speed, the same speed, always. You cannot go slower, you cannot go faster. You are locked at that one speed, which happens to be the speed of light, through the combined fabric of space and time together. Now the desert has two directions. One direction is north, which represents your movement through time. One direction is east, which represents your movement through space. If you point your car perfectly north and drive, you are moving through time at maximum speed. That is what a stationary object does. A rock sitting on a table is not doing nothing. It is screaming through time at the speed of light, making no progress through space at all because all of its motion is committed to the time direction. Now turn the wheel. Point the car slightly east. You start moving through space, covering physical distance, but you are still locked at the same total speed across that desert. The moment you start moving east, you have to steal that motion from somewhere, and the only place to steal it from is your northward component, your movement through time. You slow down through time precisely as much as you speed up through space. This is not a metaphor. This is the geometric mechanism behind time dilation, the literal slowing of clocks on moving objects, which has been measured with atomic clocks on airplanes and is as real and confirmed as any fact in physics. And now you see the wall. To move through space at the speed of light, you have to point your car perfectly east, but that means your northward component, your time component, drops to zero. You have committed all available motion to space and none to time. You are at the limit. There is no more speed left to borrow. You cannot go faster through space because you have nothing left in the time direction to convert. This is not an engineering failure. This is geometry. The speed of light is the total speed of everything through space-time, and it has been fully spent. But let us go further, because the mathematics of what happens when you try to push past this gets genuinely brutal. Consider a spaceship. You fire the engines. You add energy. In the comfortable, familiar world of slow speeds, adding energy increases velocity in a nice, linear, predictable way. Push harder, go faster. That is the intuition. But that intuition is only an approximation that works when you are moving slowly compared to light. The real equation is not so cooperative. As the spaceship moves faster, something deeply uncomfortable happens to its inertia. The energy you are pouring into the ship does not simply increase its velocity anymore. The mathematics begins redirecting that energy into something else entirely. It converts into mass. The relativistic mass of the ship, its resistance to further acceleration, begins to grow. The faster the ship moves, the heavier it gets. Not heavier in the ordinary sense of picking up physical material, but heavier in the sense that the very energy of its motion adds to the inertia that must be overcome to push it further. At 10% of the speed of light, this effect is small enough to almost ignore. At 90%, you are carrying significantly more inertia than you started with. At 99%, the numbers become savage. The energy required to push from 99% to 99.9% is astronomically larger than the energy that got you to 99% in the first place. The curve does not flatten. It does not plateau at some manageable level. It goes vertical. As you approach the speed of light, your relativistic mass approaches infinity. And to accelerate an infinite mass, even a tiny fraction further, requires an infinite amount of energy. There is no engineering solution to infinite energy. There is no fuel source. There is no clever workaround hiding in some unexamined corner of the equations. The mathematics is giving you a direct and honest answer. It is saying that a massive object reaching the speed of light is not just practically difficult, it is mathematically forbidden. The wall is not made of steel. It is made of the structure of the equations themselves, and those equations have been verified to extraordinary precision in particle accelerators, where we routinely push electrons to 99.999% of the speed of light and watch the energy requirements explode, precisely as the equations predict. Now let us talk about why this matters beyond rockets and spaceships, because there is something far darker lurking in what happens if you imagine, purely theoretically, breaking through. What does it actually mean to travel faster than the speed of causality? The speed of light is not just the speed of photons. It is the speed at which information about any event can propagate to any other location. It is the speed at which cause can reach effect. If you punch a wall, the information that you punched it travels outward from that point at the speed of light or slower. Every consequence of every action is bounded by this propagation speed. This is the architecture of causality, the rule that says effects must follow their causes, that the sequence of events is preserved, that the universe is logically consistent. If you move faster than causality, you are not just traveling fast. You are, in the precise language of the Lorentz transformations, moving backwards through time from the perspective of certain reference frames. This is not a loose analogy. This is what the mathematics computes. A signal or object traveling faster than light can arrive at a destination before it departed from its source in the reference frame of a legitimately moving observer. You do not need exotic physics to derive this. It falls directly out of special relativity. The consequences are not merely philosophically uncomfortable, they are logically catastrophic. If effects can precede causes, then the entire sequential structure of the universe collapses. You could receive a reply to a message before you sent it. You could prevent your own departure after you have already arrived. The causal chain that connects every event in the universe to every subsequent event becomes scrambled beyond recovery. Paradoxes of this kind are not puzzles to be resolved. They represent a fundamental breakdown in the logical consistency of the physical world. The speed limit is not arbitrary. It is the minimum requirement for a universe in which events are meaningfully ordered and in which the concept of consequence has any content at all. And then there is the third truth, quieter but in some ways the most foundational of all. Why does light travel at that specific speed? Why not faster? Why not slower? The answer sits inside the electromagnetic properties of the vacuum itself. Light is an oscillation. An electric field collapsing into a magnetic field collapsing back into an electric field, propagating forward through empty space in a self-sustaining wave. The speed at which this wave propagates is not something that was chosen or designed. It is determined by two fundamental constants of nature: the permeability of the vacuum, which measures how strongly empty space resists the formation of a magnetic field, and the permittivity of the vacuum, which measures how strongly empty space resists the formation of an electric field. Multiply these two constants together, take the reciprocal of the square root, and you get precisely the speed of light. This is not a coincidence. This is the operating frequency of the electromagnetic vacuum. The dark, cold, empty space between galaxies has a rigidity to it, a set of electromagnetic properties that are fixed constants of the physical world. And those constants hardcode the speed of electromagnetic propagation into the fabric of reality. Light does not choose to travel at that speed. It travels at that speed because the medium it travels through, the vacuum, has those specific properties. And since those properties are uniform throughout the observable universe, the speed of light is uniform throughout the observable universe. There is something almost mechanical and cold about this that I find deeply satisfying. The universe is not permissive about this number. It does not leave wiggle room. The vacuum has its constants. Those constants determine the propagation speed of electromagnetic fields, and massless particles riding those fields have no choice but to travel at that speed. It is the ceiling, because it is the speed of the underlying field, and the underlying field is running at the frequency the vacuum permits, and the vacuum does not negotiate. So here is what you are left with when you take the naive picture of the speed limit and replace it with the real one. You are left with a universe that is not imprisoning you with an arbitrary rule. You are left with a universe whose causal structure, whose logical consistency, whose variability to be a place where one thing leads to another, depends on that limit holding. The speed of light is the speed at which the present moment propagates. It is the rate at which reality computes its own next state. If that rate were infinite, causality would be meaningless. Everything would influence everything else instantaneously, and the concept of sequence would dissolve. The terror and the beauty of this are inseparable. The universe is running at a finite clock speed, and we are made of events that propagate within it, shaped by it, bounded by it, and held together by it. Not as prisoners of a cruel restriction, but as patterns inside a machine whose rules are the precondition for our existence in the first place. Understanding those rules, down to the constants baked into the cold permittivity of empty space, down to the brutal mathematics of relativistic inertia, down to the causal logic that forbids backwards propagation, that understanding is not a ceiling on human thought. It is the floor, the solid, verifiable, honest floor of how this particular universe actually works.